Hello, good morning everyone. So, in today's session, we are going to discuss about the very interesting theory of interest, that is loanable funds. Let us start the session with interest. So, the loanable funds theory of interest, that is developed by a Swedish economist Nat Wicksell. So, later on that is improved by a Swedish economist like Bertil Ohlin, Gunnar Myrdal, etc. So, what this theory states, according to loanable funds theory of interest, the demand for and supply of loanable funds determines the rate of interest. So, what is the difference between the classical theory of interest and the loanable funds theory of interest, and why this theory is developed? Yes, the supply of loanable funds is the improvement of the supply of savings. And again, see here, the demand for loanable funds is also the more comprehensive than the term demand for savings. So, let us try to understand the two concepts of supply of loanable funds and the demand for loanable funds according to loanable funds theory of interest. See here, the rate of interest is determined where there is an intersection of demand for loanable funds and supply of loanable funds. And before going to discuss these all things, it is very essential to understand the assumptions of loanable funds. So, as we all know that the first very interesting assumption is perfect mobility of funds throughout the market. So, there is no barriers or no restrictions. The funds are easily mobile from one place to another place. And there is a perfect competition between both buyers or that is sellers, that means borrowers and lenders. And both are price taker. The theory uses partial equilibrium approach. The demand and supply of loanable funds depends upon the rate of interest and keeping other factors constant, and other factors are those who affects the rate of interest. The theory considers only the rate of interest that determines the rate of interest in this theory. The theory takes flow equilibrium and money supply is exogenous. So, these are the few important assumptions of loanable funds. And on the basis of this theory assumptions, let us try to understand the theory. The neoclassical theory of interest, that is loanable funds theory of interest, that is very interesting. So, let us try to understand the demand side first, and later we will discuss about the supply side. Okay, why there is a demand for loanable funds? Loanable funds may be demanded for many purposes, and few are very interesting. So, they are investment and hoarding and day saving. So, let us try to know these all things. The first very interesting one, that is for investment purpose. As we all know that why funds are demanded for the purpose of investment. So, investment depends upon what? The big question arises, and the investment depends upon the rate of profit. See here, so long as the expected rate of profit is greater than the rate of interest, the rate of profit is more than the rate of interest. At this level, the entrepreneur go on demanding more and more funds and invest more and more funds. Suppose what happens if the rate of profit comes down, then definitely they demand less and they invest less. So, this is the very interesting point. The level of investment definitely depends upon the rate of profit. And come to the second very interesting one, hoarding purpose. Yes, people demand funds for hoarding purpose. So, why they interested to hoard money? So, the demand for loanable funds is made up by those people who want to hoard. It has idle cash balances. Why they need funds for idle cash balances? That to satisfy their desire for liquidity. It is the very interesting point. So, liquid cash with themselves. Why they need liquid cash with themselves? For three purposes: transaction purpose, and precautionary purpose, and for speculative purpose. Why for a transaction purpose? That to meet day-to-day expenditure. And why for precautionary purpose? That to meet unforeseen conditions. And why speculation? And speculation means that to enjoy ups and downs in the market. So they want loanable funds for hoarding purpose. And third one, that is this saving is opposite to an act of saving. So they need money for this purpose also. And one more interesting point is there, they also demand loanable funds to purchase consumer goods. Yes, they want to purchase consumer goods. Take for example, they are cars, luxurious things, etc. So these all are the important concepts related to the demand for loanable funds. And come to the next very interesting point. What is that? Supply of loanable funds. So supply of loanable funds, there are basically four sources. One is saving, dishoarding, disinvestment, bank credit, etc. So this is the very interesting point. So come to the first one, saving. So saving is the very important factor that determines the level of supply of loanable funds. So how or what is saving? Saving refers to the difference between income and consumption, and saving that is equal to Y minus C. Y means income and C means consumption. Okay, the savings are made by individuals and households, and this saving is not a independent factor, it is a dependent factor. And the term saving that depends upon many things. Yes, listen friends, the term saving depends upon many things. What they are? They are the level of income and the interest to save, then marketing conditions, the rate of interest and future expectations and attachment towards their family, etc. So these all things determines the rate of savings. Yes, out of these all, rate of interest is the major factor. And as the rate of interest goes on increasing, people want to save more and more. Higher the rate of interest, higher will be the savings, and lower the rate of interest and lower will be the saving. Then come to the second very interesting point that determines, that is supply side, dishoarding. Yes, it is the another source of loanable funds. Individuals generally dishold their money, that means from their past hoardings when the rate of interest is high. Thus, the idle cash balance of the past now become the active money at present and become available for investment. So, this is the second very interesting source. And come to the third one, that is disinvestment. And disinvestment, it is opposite of investment. It will be high when the present rate of interest provides better returns in comparison to present earnings. Definitely. So the disinvestment that consists of running down of inventories and the non-replacement of machineries, etc. So in such a case, it flows into the market for loanable funds. Disinvestment is higher and where the rate of interest is high. And come to the fourth very interesting one, that is the bank credit. So money created bank adds to the supply of loanable funds. If the banks contract credit and the supply of loanable funds also reduced. Therefore, the credit creation power of the banking institutions determines the supply of loanable funds. And the bank creates more credit at a higher rate of interest, and bank creates less at a lower rate of interest. So these are the four very important factors determines the level of supply of loanable funds. They are, once again I will repeat, savings, dishoarding, disinvestment and bank credit. Yes, now come to the point how the rate of interest is determined. According to loanable funds theory, equilibrium rate of interest is that which brings equality between the supply of and demand for loanable funds. And this is explained with the help of diagram given here. Yes friends, see here two curves are there. One is supply curve and another one is demand curve. Okay. Then the demand curve slopes downward and the supply curve rises upward. Then how these all things are determined? Yes, what the demand includes and what supply includes, how they are determined. And see here, demand curve slopes downward from left to right. So this includes what? This includes nothing but that is the very interesting point, demand for and supply of loanable funds. So demand curve slopes downward, this is for saving given here, and this is for hoarding, and this is for investment purpose. So the demand curve slopes downward from left to right. And come to the next one, that is supply curve rises upward. See here, so given here, this is for DI, that means investment, and this is for hoarding, and this is for bank money, and this is for supply. Okay, so how the rate of interest is determined? And the rate of interest is determined where these two are equal. Yes, let us see here. So demand curve and supply curve intersects at point E. So this is the demand curve and this is the supply curve. So intersection point is considered as equilibrium point. Yes. So this is how the rate of interest is determined in loanable funds theory of interest. Yes, this is the very interesting point. But unfortunately, the theory is criticized by critics. They states that not only the rate of interest that determines the level of demand for and supply of loanable funds. Actually, there are different interesting factors. They determines the supply of and demand for loanable funds. If take for example, what we states that when the rate of interest is high, then definitely people save more. But in practical life, there are some people who save money even though the rate of interest is zero. So this is how the theory is criticized. And one more criticism is given here. The loanable funds theory is indeterminate. According to the theory, the rate of interest is determined for demand and supply. But the loanable funds depends upon the disposable income depends upon the level of investment, etc., etc. In this way, the demand for loanable funds that occupies very important place in our study. Friends, thank you for patience hearing. Let us go through these all things and try to understand.